What's going on, guys? It's your boy Kev, and in this video, we're going to be building a full stack app together, and you guys are going to get the entire code base at the end of this video so you can start where we leave off. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be building an app called careerapply.ai, which allows users to land their dream jobs using AI to build their resume, their cover letter, find their dream job, and send in those applications. And the goal of careerapply.ai is to just be a recreation of another brand called AIapply.co. And this brand has made over $3 million in 2024, and they're growing quite rapidly using AI tools to help people land monster jobs. That's exactly what we're going to be building in this video, just a little bit better. And so without further ado, guys, we're going to break down this entire video in a couple of slides, and then we're going to build it together. Let's jump into the rest of this breakdown. Before we talk about the build, let's talk about what makes this an amazing idea. Now, out of nowhere, a bunch of new proven competition in this industry has come out of the woodworks, and there are multiple different brands that are growing into million-dollar companies. And so the fact that it's not that saturated yet and is a really fast-growing industry has me really excited. Now, the next thing that has me really excited, guys, is the network effect of this app that we're building, because since we can deliver amazing results for our customers, the word of mouth potential for our application is actually really high. And also, guys, to end this video, I'm going to be breaking down my full organic marketing strategy on how I would actually grow this SaaS to 10K a month, 50K a month, and beyond. And so that is why I'm really excited for this video, because in the previous build outs that we've had so far, I haven't given you guys the code bases, you just have been watching along. And so now you can watch along and see all of the different thought processes that go behind building the SaaS, but you're also going to get the entire code base. And so for you guys to get that code base, all you have to do is join the No Code Academy, which is linked down below, and you're going to be able to just copy the code base, and we have a full tutorial in the academy for you guys. There's also going to be a free code base in the free academy as well. Now, before we move forward though, let's talk about the competitive analysis, because this has me really, really excited. So the first thing that I did was basically get every single competitor that AI could find for me, and it gave me a bunch of different notes, such as their pricing points, their key takeaways, and their strategic positioning, to give ourselves a little bit of a clearer view into how we should structure our application. And so as we went forward, we were able to see that there's a whole bunch of different AI apply companies, but what we want to do is allow the user to just land on our page, fill out a type form of all of their personal information, their skills, their interests, and we use that to actually build custom resumes based on the job applications and job opportunities that the user actually wants. And so this next part here, in terms of the tech stack, it basically just breaks down all the different things that we're going to have to do, right? So we're going to have to build auth and user data, build in AI services. There's going to have to be a documentation generation. So these are all things that we noted down, and I actually made it even more clear for you guys to understand. So after I went through all of this competitive research, I moved on to our next step. So guys, the next step is the database architecture. And this is a very rough level overview of how the database is actually going to work, but I want you guys to understand my thought process before I actually go out and build it. So the first column here that we're going to talk about is the users table. Now, the beautiful thing that Replit Agent has is a Replit authentication, which means we can add Google, Twitter, YouTube, or any type of third-party service to our Replit authentication, which makes security and just the overall feel of our app really, really nice. So within the users table, we're going to have an email, username, password. We're also going to have an about me form. And this about me form is where we're going to collect all of the information about our users. They're also going to be able to give us their LinkedIn URLs, their old resumes that they used, and a nice image that we will then use for their applications. As well, we will finish off the video by determining what the subscription types should be and our price points. That will all be happening in the users table. Now, there's going to be different price points in our app. And this is where the usage table comes into play, because when we're thinking about our application, we also want to think about what is the usage that our users are going to be taking up. And there's three that really come to mind for me. That's resume builds for specific jobs, CV builds for specific jobs, and actually the amount of jobs that they have applied to. So maybe our base tier is allowing them to apply to 50 jobs a week, and that'll be $20 a month. And then the top tier can do like 500 jobs a week, and that'll be like $100 a month. These are just rough, but that is how we're thinking about it in terms of the usage table. Now, the job applications table is the main table that the user actually sees value in. This is where their job dashboard essentially lives, where they get to see all the interviews that they generated from the job applications. They get to see all of the new job opportunities on the job board that match their criteria and different job trends in the macro economy. And so this is essentially what we have as our database architecture. There's things that you're going to see that you need to add on, but this is what we're going to be building out to begin. So before we talk about step by step and we start building together, let's talk about our tech stack. So I went through all of this myself to give you guys a really easy and straightforward breakdown. So our back end is going to use the Neon SQL database, which is tied directly into the Replit agent, which makes things very easy, meaning if you don't even know how to use a database or query a database, you don't have to anymore because the Replit agent will do that for you. You just have to understand how it actually works. You don't have to actually implement the database structure yourself. You have to just understand how it works. Now, the next thing, like we said, is sign up, which we're going to use Replit Auth. We're going to use Stripe to collect payments. We're going to use ChatGPT and Typeform to create the resumes and cover letters for the different job applications. We're going to use the Indeed API and the ZipRecruiter API to create a job board where the user can actually choose where they want to send their applications to. And then we have a job application API that'll actually create those job application submissions. Now, this is not going to be an iOS app, so we're going to use Next.js, which in my opinion is the best coding infrastructure for web applications. Some apps you do need to build iOS for, but something like an AI application and job finding SaaS, you don't really need iOS for, especially in the early stages. And so that's why we're going with Next.js. So we're getting through the boring stuff. Let's talk about steps to MVP. This is definitely the most fun. So we're going to open up this. And before we actually talk about the steps to MVP, I actually want to break down some industry insights that tie into why this is also a great opportunity. So the global resume writing service has been valued at $2.3 billion in 2024. It's going to grow to $2.5 billion in 2025. And its annual growth rate is pretty strong. Now, if we think about macroeconomics, I think the job market is changing rapidly with the AI boom. And so a lot of job layoffs are going to happen and a whole bunch of people are going to be looking for new work. And so this is why I also see this as a great opportunity in the current climate that we're living in. Speaking about step-by-step instructions here, guys, we're going to build out the Replit Auth setup. We're going to then do the Neon database. We're then going to create our questionnaire, our job board, resume, blah, blah, blah. You guys get the point. Like and subscribe. Let's hop into Replit and let's get this baby started. So this first prompt is going to be very, very simplistic, and I'm just going to let it know the gist of my application. Every first prompt we do, we like to just build the infrastructure. We don't actually have to build any features because we want the UI to look good before we do anything. So we're literally just going to say, I am building a resume and cover letter and job application submission SaaS. And that's basically it. Now, we could also improve this prompt, so that's what I'm going to do here. It just makes things even simpler for the AI to understand. I'm going to send it in and start building. I'm going to now check in with you guys after this first checkpoint. And so one thing I want to point out really quick is every time you build out your first prompt with Replit, it's going to give you this like initial prototype page where it asks you if you want to add any additional features. I never want to allow the Replit agent to add additional features when it's first building out the UI. So I just allow it to build the initial prototype and I just go from there. All right, guys. So since we put OpenAI in the prompt along with the Replit Auth, there's actually two things that we need to add to the secret. So the first one is the OpenAI API key. And the second one is a session secret. We're going to go to OpenAI and we're going to add the API key, but we're also going to ask the Replit agent to just create the session secret, and it'll just create a random set of keys that we can use and throw into the secrets. So let's do them step by step. And so we're going to copy that, head over to the application. We're going to go into the secrets. We're going to click new secret, and we're going to paste in that value. All right, guys. So now that I added the OpenAI API key, I went over to the AI assistant on Replit to actually create the session secret value. Now, if you're new to Replit, on the agent, it costs you 25 cents every completion, but with the assistant, it only costs you 5 cents. And if you want, you can actually switch the model from Claude to ChatGPT, and that's free. And so what I did to save money is I I went to the assistant to create this value. And so now that I have the session secret value, I'm just going to copy and paste it into the secrets. And so now we have the OpenAI API key and the session secret to do the Replit authentication. And so before we check that off on our checkbox, we actually have to make that thing work. And so the AI assistant so far has created our UI, which is what we're looking at right now. And so what we got to do first is actually create that sign up page. All right, guys, so the sign up page just finished updating, and I want to just explain everything about this new Auth beta that Replit just came out with. So we're just going to head over to the Auth beta page, and you can see here that they have 5 new login providers. So Google, GitHub, X, Apple, and email. And the other really sick thing about this is you can now track the activity of your users. See, I've already signed in with 2 different methods. One of them was through Gmail, one of them was through Replit, and it also tracks when the user was last logged in. And so we're going to go back to the preview of the app. We're going to open it up in a new window. I'm just going to head over to the sign up page. And so now we have the option to sign up with Google, GitHub, X, Apple, and email. Now, one thing that might trick you guys is if you click one of these apps and then it automatically logs you in, like it will in this case. See, automatically it's just saying to allow without me having to even sign in. That's because your cookies are already signed in to those social providers. And so the way that I tested this functionality actually working was I sent the link of my Replit address to my iPhone, and then I signed in again using this SSO, and then I was able to sign in with Google. So that was really cool to see, and that's why we've now signed in with 2 different accounts, right? Now, the next thing I want to talk about was something that I realized while this update was happening, and that actually ties into how the marketing will work, because there's going to be 2 different types of users that use this application. There's going to be people that are applying for themselves, and then there's going to be people that are applying for other people, like agencies. And so a sign-in method like email allows people to sign in with their own email, but then apply on behalf of others. And so there's going to be a whole new update in terms of the UI on how we can differentiate between a user that applies for themselves and a user that wants to apply for other people, potentially a whole bunch of people. And so that's something that I realized, which is pretty cool. Like one person could actually be like a job guru, like a job finding guru, and use this Career Apply AI application to actually get the job done. And so now that we've officially gotten our first big step out of the way, we're going to head back over to our progression here for the Career AI Apply app, and we're going to check off the Replit Auth setup. Now, the other thing we want to start talking about is the Neon database setup, right? And so this right here, this 3 like cylindrical stack here is the database. And so we've already built out the users table hand in hand with Auth beta. And so we have the ID, the username, the email, the first name, and what we're also going to be able to grab is the profile image URL. Now, this profile image is going to be very important because we're going to use that for the resumes that the users are uploading. And so that is the next step that we're going to quickly add. And then the next thing we're going to work on is actually the Typeform questionnaire. And so we're going to knock off the Neon DB setup, but we're going to come back to this because there's more to be done. Okay, so we just got the users table completed, but we still have to do the usage and we have to do the job dashboard. And so those are some things that we have to actually, touch on as we go. So now that we understand that there's going to be potentially people that are using this app in 2 different ways, when someone first signs up, we need to hit them with this questionnaire that first differentiates their actual use case on the app. What are you using this app for and why? And so that's what we're going to build out now. I'm going to say, okay, that works perfectly. Now, when a user first signs up and lands back on the homepage, we want to give them a onboarding progression guide. So we're just going to work on those first 2 updates. And something that I realized through that as well is that we can start charging people based on how many other people they're going to apply for. And so like if an agency specializes in landing people high paying jobs, they can use Career Apply AI to land hundreds of people jobs. And so depending on how many people they apply for is another way that we can actually charge people in terms of their usage. And so if we head back to our presentation while the Replit agent is cooking, we can actually fix up that section of the presentation where we talk about the usage. And so just zooming in here quick, we have the resume builds that we can charge people on, the cover letter builds, the jobs that they apply to, and now we can add the amount of people they are applying on behalf of. Now, since I'm building on the fly here, we might have to onboard an API, like a Typeform API or something like that, that actually handles this form that we want to build. Maybe not, maybe we just use a Google Sheets API. I don't exactly know, but maybe even within Replit's database, we can just build out this, custom Typeform type thing, which is what I'm hoping for. So we'll see how this goes. So while the Replit agent's working through this next update, let me explain why joining the No Code Academy makes so much sense. Since I'm giving you this entire code base, I have full understanding of where this project is when you first get your hands on it. And since I'm giving you the entire code base, you can then start building on top of it. And so if you have any other issues or problems or questions that then come up, not just in terms of building, but then also marketing and making sales, well, that's where the actual power of the Academy will come in. So not only are we giving it for free, that's not the real value, honestly. The value after that is how you're gonna monetize it, how you're gonna hit the audience, how you're gonna hit the hearts of your audience, and how you're gonna convert them into customers. We've already had people like Oscar who literally built a full stack app in a week and generated 2,000 fucking members. And we had a full conversation about that. It's on my channel and it's in the community if you actually want a full breakdown of how Oscar was able to do that as well. All right, guys, so we've got the newest update. It now has this pop-up that says, welcome to a career apply AI, and just says, let's get started and whatever. Something I thought of while this was happening is that we can build the questionnaire pretty well using chat. And so we're gonna head over to ChatGPT and we're basically gonna say, I'm creating an app that helps people get jobs. I am building a questionnaire they need to fill out so we have more context of them. I want you to create me this questionnaire. We'll just let 4.0 cook. I didn't want to use 0.3 because that would have taken like another 3 minutes, and we've already been sitting behind the agent waiting for all of these updates. And so tuition name, graduation year, work experience, blah, 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 blah. Do you have a resume we can analyze? I love that. All right, cool. So now that we're back on the Replit agent, we're not even going to even see what this questionnaire that it built out for us was. We're literally just going to paste that in, and we're going to say, I want you to use these questions in the onboarding questionnaire. So it looks like the onboarding flow has been built out. So what I'm going to do is we're going to open up Safari. And so here in the Safari, guys, we've now stated who we're applying for. So we're applying for myself. We've added our cover photo that we'll be using for all of our resumes. And then we're going to actually get into the questionnaire that we used from ChatGPT. And so let's just go through all of this together as if we're really applying. And so where are you willing to work? I'm willing to work on site in my current city, remote, hybrid, let's just say everywhere for this case. If open to relocation, let's say I'm open to go to Los Angeles and stuff like that. Time zones doesn't matter. Let's say all of the above. Preferred work schedule, let's go full time. Now next, job preferences, target job titles. So let's say marketing, software development, stuff like that, sales, let's just say stuff like that, okay? Now that I'm going through this application, we can already have like predetermined options that they can choose. Like I can see here there's tech, health, fitness, but these should be like clickable options. So it should be like tech, health, fitness, business, commerce, e-commerce, brick and mortar, like whatever the fuck, blue collar, everything that, they would want to preferably be in. And I'm going to fill this out as if like a normal person would fill this out. So I'm not going to, there's no like requirement. So let's just say they fill it out like this. Let's just say for that. Now this could be a legit calendar pop-up that gets, populated, like user clicks this and a full calendar gets popped up. But yeah, so let's continue. So it says all set, your account's ready to go. We've personalized your whatever. And now it's sent us to a dashboard where it shows us our total application. So that's really cool. We didn't tell it to build out this dashboard. So now we can get rid of the Safari browser. We can open up Chrome. And okay, so we're back at square one. Let's head back to our progression tracker here just to see where we're at. So we've now built out this questionnaire and this about me, and we know that there's a whole lot more to be done, right? So we're gonna again go more to be done, make the onboarding faster is what I would say for you guys. Make it onboarding faster, easier, stuff like that. But that is the gist of it, get their information, maybe get their LinkedIn URL that we can scrape data from. We can potentially scrape their connections as well in the future, and then use those connections to potentially, have like warm introductions as a whole new feature in the app as well. So the next thing, guys, is actually the job board. And so that's what we're gonna work on next, which is pretty fun. So first of all, let's just click on the job board. Let's see what we have. So absolutely nothing, right? An error. And so we're just gonna tell the agent now, we're gonna, kind of have it switch tasks, have it switch minds. And so we're just basically gonna go like, okay, the onboarding flow is pretty solid for the time being. Now let's work on the job board page. While that's happening, something that actually came into mind is I want to see if any of that onboarding stuff has actually been stored in the database. So we want to make sure that that has happened. So out of these pages, I think it would potentially be in users. So yeah, we've scrolled all the way down to the end of the users table, and it stored all of the responses from that onboarding questionnaire. So salary expectations, ideal company type, preferred industries, job titles, location, all that fun stuff. So now what we're going to be able to do is, using an AI agent, we can query the database using this information to create nuanced resumes and cover letters that we would then use for these job applications. But the first thing we got to do is actually get the job board working. And so it's cool that, the Replit agent, without us really telling it to, it did store it in the user's database in the way that we wanted it to. If I were to give you guys a realistic time frame of how long this has taken me up until this point, it's been about 2.5 hours. And we've knocked about, I think, two of the 10 main steps that are needed for this project. So now that we're back in the tech stack, I want to explain where we're at in terms of implementing stuff. And so we've generated enough information to create resumes and cover letters, but we don't have the job board working yet, so it's not really relevant for us to worry about that. So let's start implementing this API first. So we're gonna first see that Indeed API and what it's all about. I did a deep dive on the Indeed API and all the other options, and you actually need to apply to the Indeed partnership to actually get access to their API. So I applied, but then they sent me an email that said it's going to take 10 business days to get approved. So I just found a really high quality alternative that we can use in the meantime. But we are also going to be using the Indeed Apply API, because the Indeed Apply API has apply and job boards. And so you can grab a job board and apply to that same job in one simple function. So the API that I found is also really powerful, to the point where it's going to be implemented alongside the Indeed API, because what we found on Replit API allows users to get job salary ranges, job details, a job search, and get company job salary across the entire company. And so these are all really cool features, especially the job salary, where it shows you the high and low end ranges for a specific job type in a specific industry in a specific city. And so I'm a big fan of that. And we're going to now implement the Replit API to the job board. And so now we're going to head over to our Replit, and first we want to see how the job board's actually looking, and we can see the updates finally finished, and the job board looks pretty good. Now every API that's going to list jobs is going to have a bunch of different fields and a bunch of different metrics that can be displayed. Some of these APIs will have the salary, some of them won't. Some jobs in general won't display the salary, some will. And so it's going to be very interesting now to see what data we get from the API to actually display on our front end. So if we go over to Glassdoor, we can actually see that I've actually ran a couple test API calls to actually see what we're getting. And so for the job search, for example, the users are able to just simply enter in a sentence in what the job is that they want. So developer jobs in Chicago, or startup roles in Toronto type shit would be the sentence. And then you could also get pages upon pages of responses. So not just like 5 to 10 responses, but full pages. And so what you're seeing on the right-hand side here is the entire first page of job opportunities for the job developer role in Chicago. And that was only one page of results. And so I'm pretty excited about, what this API is already able to give us, especially since we're building the MVP here and you guys are now going to be able to build on top of. I'm going to now essentially tell the agent about Replit API and what it's able to do. And then I'm going to give it this API key, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to say the job board looks great. Going to use a Replit API for the job board. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the entire website. We're going to head to the agent. We're going to paste in the website, and we're going to click get text content. Now what that does is it scrapes all of the HTML on that page, which is what we need. And that's going to help the agent understand how the API call is actually going to be made. Now, the other thing we can do is grab the raw request, which is right here, and we can send this to the agent as an example of how the request should be made as well. So like, for example, here are all the query parameters that could be sent in the API call, and I think that's also something that could be of value. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the entire query and all the different possibilities that could be made in this API call, and we're just going to send that to the agent as well. And then we're going to send in this prompt, right? So we're going to say, we need to add the Replit API to make this work. Explain your understanding and implement it so that the job board is now using the API jobs. So we're just going to send that in. We're going to let Replit cook and check back in when we're in a decent spot. Found the API key. Now we're going to head back in. It should have the secrets ready for us, and we're just going to paste in that key. We're going to click continue, and we'll add it to the account secrets as well. All right, so the job board's working in its first shot, so it just one shot of this update. Now, look at how in-depth the description of these job postings are. Obviously, we haven't formatted it correctly or done anything like that. This is raw. Now, what I want to show you guys is in the example response, there's also a job apply link that comes with every single one of the job postings. And so even though we got a very raw response, the first thing that I know we need to do is have that apply link right in the card right here. So maybe like somewhere beside like the full time or something like that. Okay, so another thing that we got to do, and we have already kind of implemented it here, is be able to bookmark or save the jobs that a user has seen, because we want to be able to create a specialized tab of their favorite jobs that they've found, so we can send that to an AI agent to create customized resumes, cover letters, and full head-to-toe applications, so their likelihood of getting an interview or potentially even landing the job goes up. We're going to go back into our database architecture, and we're going to write that down. Here in the job applications table, which we haven't built out yet, we have to do saved jobs. And within those saved jobs, there's different job postings, right? So if this saved job was posted on Indeed, we can use the Indeed apply API to automatically send in the application. But if the job that was saved was found using this API or any other API that we end up using, and they don't have an apply feature, then we have to also be able to show that to our user and be like, this one you have to apply to manually. Here's the link. Save jobs, Indeed versus other APIs. It's looking really solid now. So let's see where we're at right now. So now the agent says it's come up with the update. I've implemented the clickable jobs link with visual indicators. That would be sick if it fucking one-shotted this too. So again, it's gonna pull up the jobs, and okay, the apply now button is here. Do we rip it? Wow. All right, guys, so the job board basically one-shotted, and it's incredible how well it works. So I just want to show you guys the first couple features that it has, and then how we're going to make it a bit better before we move on to our next feature that we add. So you can do a little search, and it has an option between the job title, skills, and company, and the location. But if you guys remember, the actual queries that we can put into this API call, the first one just needs to be a simple sentence, like developer jobs in Chicago. So we need to restructure this initial search engine to actually fit these query parameters better. And so I just want to show you guys how this works though. So if we go like basketball coaching in Arizona, and we search that up, you literally get an entire list of private basketball coaching that you can do at different universities, different academies, different colleges, different high schools. It's outrageous how well this works. And again, what you're seeing here in terms of the response is all raw. So you can just prompt the agent to make this look better. But in terms of the functionality so far, that looks good. But this location stuff doesn't work because it's just that first search parameter. So that's the first thing we want to add. The second thing we want to add, right, is this save feature to actually work. So then when the user saves it, we also want to make another page in this navigation bar that has like their entire, portfolio of saved jobs. And so that potentially could be in the dashboard as well. And so we just have to think about how we want that to look for a second. But before we do that, let's think about how we want this job search form to actually look. So we're going to say the job board works well. Now let's restructure the job search form to properly fit the query params of the Replit API we are using. These are the query params. And then we're just going to go to the Replit API. We're just going to copy all of the params. We already did this previously. We're just going to do it one more time. Yeah, and then we're just going to copy in those query params. And so now that the agent has the query params, we can say like, I want the job search form to feature a sentence with an example in it. Job search looks better, but it doesn't actually allow us to do any other of the query parameters. So the first query parameter we're going to work on is the job type between full-time, part-time, contract, and internship. So we're going to get that to work really quick. Job type filter works pretty well. In this example here, right, if we just choose contract, for example, and we go software developers in Toronto, contract, 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 contract. Okay, so as you guys see, it actually works perfectly. And so we're definitely close to being able to check off the job board on our to-do list to completing this app in terms of its MVP, but we do need to still add the ability to save jobs. And so when a user clicks the Save Jobs button, it still takes them to this weird redirect, which doesn't really make sense. And so we need to make sure that when a user clicks that, it actually gets saved and stored in the database. And that ties into that job application or job dashboard users table that we were talking about. And so that's what we're going to build out next. I'm going to say, okay, that looks great. Now we need to build out the dashboard page, which will include all of the saved jobs that a user has seen and is interested in. Please build out this page and build a job dashboard table in the database where we can store the user's saved jobs they are interested in, along with their job applications, their statuses, and their saved resumes for specific job opportunities. And we're just going to send that in and let it cook. All right, guys, so it's been about another hour since we last spoke, and now the job board is completely functional and you can save the jobs that you're interested in. And so I want to show you guys a quick example of that. If I was interested in this software development job, we go down, we click save. Now what we've done is the saved jobs actually populate on the dashboard. So here on the dashboard, guys, we can see that we have two jobs that the user is now interested in. And so we created a generate resume and generate cover letter button, which will then trigger OpenAI to read the job posting and read that onboarding questionnaire to create the perfect customized resume and cover letter for this job opportunity. And so the next steps here, guys, is actually to head back into our to-do list and check off that job board. Now, just like everything else we've been working on, there are a bunch of other things that we can add. And something that we spoke about yesterday was the other API call that we can use from Replit API that actually tells approximate salary ranges for a specific city. So if someone is a marketing specialist, they can use this job salary API to see which cities offer the most competitive wages for their career. And that's something that can give them real guidance in terms of where in the world they should be applying to. And so that's something I'll let you guys tap into, but the Replit API that we've been using offers that functionality as well. And so the other thing that we want to end up specifying here is to actually specify which job board that these job postings are coming from. So if we head back into our project here, we can see that, these two posts came from these two job postings came from Replit API. And that means we can't do the automatic application because both of these application funnels are manual, meaning if I were to click the apply button, it's going to take us directly to Amazon because Amazon only allows people to manually manually apply. So sometimes these are just going to be the limitations. And so as you guys can see here, the user would have to manually apply, but they will be coming with customized resumes and customized cover letters. And so within the Save Jobs dashboard here, we should also have a little logo that specifies which job dashboard or which job board these job postings were actually sourced from. And so what we can do here in the job board in the future, guys, especially once we get access to the Indeed API, is we can create multiple different buttons or options or tabs or potentially like a drop down that allows the user to choose between the job boards. Similar to how like ChatGPT allows you to choose between O4 or 4.0 mini or 3.0 or O3 or whatever. The same type of concept applies here, where we can use all of these different APIs to source jobs from all across the internet. And so what we have now completely built out is this first use case using the Replit API. And so if we head back to our presentation now, we can fully move on to the next implementation of our APIs, and that is actually implementing ChatGPT. And so back in the tech stack, we've essentially created the MVP version of the job board, and we have enough information to create resumes and cover letters. So now we just need to onboard ChatGPT, and we need it to understand the user's questionnaire, and we need it to understand the full context of the job postings. So the way that we can tell that this next step is working is by actually reading the resume and cover letters that ChatGPT ends up generating to see if it uses the questionnaire and the relevant job information to create customized resumes. And so that's what we're going to work on next. And then we'll finish off by looking at the job application submission forms. And then we'll talk about pricing, margins, marketing, and then we'll finish this baby off. Another thing that we can see right away is that this resume builder tab in the nav bar is basically useless now because it's all going to be happening in the dashboard. So we're going to say, okay, that looks great, and the jobs are saving correctly. Now we want to remove the resume builder page from the nav bar for the user. Now we're going to send this in, and something that has to happen immediately after these resumes and cover letters are working is usage tracking. And so once it's working, we then need to see how we're going to think about actually, tracking all of this, user usage. That's going to happen all in these different tables. So the resumes table will track the user's resumes that they've generated. The interviews is just like an analytics table, which will track how many interviews that they've received. And something with the Indeed API is that you can also track the status of your application. And so once an application is sent in, you can also check to see whether they've reviewed it, whether they're interested, or whether they're not interested. All right, guys, so it's been another hour since we checked back in, and now the saved jobs is showing a generate resume and generate cover letter button. And when the user clicks that, it grabs the questionnaire and it grabs the job description and it feeds it to ChatGPT to turn that into a high quality customized resume. And so now that we've got it working, we actually want the generated resume and the generated cover letter to be populated within the card of the job application so that the user can preview the resume and the cover letter, and they could approve it and download it. Right now, when I clicked generate resume, it just said that the resume was generated, but the user wasn't able to see it. So once that step's able to be completed, then we can check off both the resume and cover letter boxes, and we can move on to the job application submissions and some other personalization stuff that we can get into. So it said it has completed that update. So we're going to head over to the dashboard, and now we can see in this little drop down, it has the resumes counter at 1. So we don't see the actual PDF here generated. So we're going to quickly see what happens when we click generate resume. And so it says the AI powered resume has been generated, and we can see that the generated documents is now being shown inside of the card. And so now it is the moment of truth, because this resume has to actually have the relevant information from the questionnaire and the relevant information from the job description for this resume to actually be useful. So we're going to open this up. We're going to check it out. So we've downloaded it. Let's open it. Right now, the PDF still is completely blank. And so that's something we have to tell the agent. And the other thing is like maybe the AI model is not even like doing any API call yet. So make sure the OpenAI API is being used in this call. So looking at the OpenAI developer portal, we can see that the OpenAI API that we were using is creating the resumes because it's using up these tokens, and we can see that 2 requests have been made. And so it's something happening within our actual code that is not showing the resume on the front end. And so that's what we're going to work through. But that's why we love these developer portals, because you can always see on the back end whether or not the API call is being triggered, especially for testing something like Stripe. And when you're first implementing your Stripe payments, looking at the Stripe developer portal is the best way to understand whether or not your API calls are actually being sent through or not. And then that'll help you debug it and eventually get to the solution. And so that's exactly what we're doing here. I think we found the solution. I think it wasn't properly being formatted into PDF. That could be why the file was empty. But we're still having some issues, and so this is some real debugging here. And so we want to think about how ChatGPT is actually going to process this information. And there's 2 different ways. And so there's a user level that we can talk to ChatGPT, and the system level. And the system level, think of it as a message that always gets sent to the agent before the user sends anything to the agent. And so the system level prompt will be like, you are a specialized resume writer for our users, and you're going to use the context of the questionnaire and the job application to craft a really high level resume and cover letter for our user in question. And so if that still doesn't work, then we're just going to have to continue to debug. Another thing that I'm going to tell the model to do is to use OpenAI's 4.0 model instead of the O3 model, because the O3 model takes way too long for something that honestly isn't that strenuous of a task. It's just writing, doesn't have to do that much research because we're already providing it with the information. And so we're going to use the 4.0 model for this use case. And so one thing to make things even easier for Replit is to just give it the OpenAI docs for the chats. Even though it's something that should be pretty simple, we still want to give the model the chat docs just so it understands, right? So we're going to head over to Quick Start, and we're literally just going to copy in this website, and then we're going to do the copy text content or get text content of the website. And I'm going to say we want to prompt the model on the system level to be a specialized copywriter for resumes and cover letters for our application. On the user level is where the information about the job description and the context of the user's work experience and personal information is shared. The model then needs to use this context and the system prompt to create the resume. And one thing I really like doing at the end of a really big message to an agent is to say, tell me your understanding, implement this, and I will try to make another resume and I will see if it works this time, my guy. Send that in, and today Replit has been taking a while, so I'll see you guys in like 15 minutes probably. All right guys, so one quick update with the resume generation, the cover letter generation, is that we're gonna structure the output from OpenAI from it being plain text or markdown to a JSON format. What a JSON format allows us to do is create very specific fields. So the first field could be like the header, then that little data, that little about me information section with like the email, location, address, phone number, followed by the actual resume, the actual cover letter. And so with the JSON output, we're going to be able to structure the resumes in the correct way and then use that structure to then push it into a PDF. And so that's ideally how we're going to create these resumes and cover letters. And we'll check in when that's done. And hopefully it doesn't take too much longer and we can move on to that next task. So another way you could think about this JSON is it's kind of like Lego blocks that the AI model is going to understand much easier on how to plug and play. And so one JSON field will literally just be called title. And so the AI model will know that it needs to grab that title and put it as the title of the resume. And so I think we found the solution here. And so the only thing that I'm really concerned about is that this app is not going to be able to grab the JSON and directly put it into a PDF. There might have to be some tool, like a Cloud Convert type of tool, that'll convert that PDF or that'll convert that JSON into a PDF structure on our behalf. But I'm pretty confident in the AI model's ability to just do it by itself. So hopefully we don't have to implement any more tools, but if there are any more tools, you guys will be I will let you guys know, and then we'll go and find that tool and implement it. All All right, guys, another hour went by, but we finished up the dashboard to the point where the resume and cover letters are working perfectly. And so I'm going to give you guys a quick example here. I'm going to click the generate resume and generate cover letter for this Amazon software job. And then we're going to check out what it actually creates. Now, again, the fact that this is working is what I'm really mainly focused on, because you guys are going to have access to this. So I want you to obviously iterate on top of this. And so you can make the prompt to the OpenAI agent better, and therefore the response will be higher quality. But the fact that this is working is what I want to show you guys, right? So we're going to quickly download the cover letter and the resume, and then we're going to check it out. So I'm going to quickly just download both of them. And now we have both of the resume and cover letter downloaded. So let's open up the cover letter really quick. Let's see what we got. So hiring manager, blah, 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 blah. It's in decent formatting. Again, we can make this look much better with formatting, and it could also include some more personal information like my email, my phone number, and stuff like that. But this is a very solid start, right? So it has it in the PDF format. It has a decent paragraph, and it does explain some context with the actual job posting. So that's really, really cool. And let's check out the resume now. So let's head over to the resume. And yeah, so it looks pretty decent as well. There's a little bit of formatting with the title here, but again, that's totally fine. And we still need to add like the LinkedIn to the questionnaire, a website to the questionnaire, phone number and stuff like that, so we can display all of this within the resumes for our users. But this is pretty solid as a foundation. I'll be completely honest, like this is really sick. And so now we can actually head over back to our to-do list, and we can check off two of the massive tasks that we had to get done, right? So the resume builder, which uses the database context and the job opportunity info, and the cover letter builder. Now, again, there's more to be done with, making them better. So, more to be done. Better prompts equal better results, right? But functionality is completely working. Okay, so we don't have to worry about how the PDFs are actually generated. We know that it goes from OpenAI to JSON format outputted response, JSON formatted into the PDF. And that allows you to really structure how the cover letters and resumes will look. And so we already have decent structure, right? We have title, then the personal information, followed by professional summary, skills, whatever. But we can just make it better. And we can start creating templates for these resumes, as well as adding in the picture of the user, right? So these are all things that are not going to be in the MVP version, but are easily implementable with a couple of prompts when you guys start working on this. So now let's check out what we have next on the career apply. So we have the photo uploads for applications that was done in the onboarding. We just need to now make sure these photos are used in the document generations. And so one thing I'm actually gonna write down is something we should be working on as our next step here is actually the usage tracking. And that's because we know that we can do the AI apply side of things with the Indeed API, and we just need to wait for access for that. And the other ones will take a lot of time for us to implement. And so we don't need to rush into the auto apply feature, because that isn't necessarily the core features. The core features are finding the jobs, creating the resumes, creating the cover letters, and giving you the links to actually directly go out and apply. A cherry on top is something that you can release in the future, will be the automatic job application sender. And so there's going to be MCP servers that are going to be able to do this. There's already AI models that have full control of certain computers. And so potentially you can have an agent running in the background that's applying for you on your behalf. And so there's a whole bunch of ways that you can go about the job sending application. But since we have the resumes and the cover letters working, we can start talking about the actual usage tracking. And so we can see here in the dashboard that there's 6 resumes that have been generated. And I bet if I refresh this, the cover letters will also be at 1 or something, 1 or 2. And so, yeah, we now have 8 resumes and 2 cover letters. And so based off of these metrics, we can actually start tracking and charging our users. And so in a test example here, we can say that the free plan allows users to create up to 10 resumes and 10 cover letters. And then from there, you would have to, upgrade to the base plan. And so that's actually something that we're going to focus on right now. And so before I actually prompt the agent, I'm going to check out the database to see if these resumes have been stored. And so we can see that these resumes are being stored. And so that's what we're going to work on next. This user has 8 generated resumes. And so after this update, once we generate 2 more resumes, it should stop the user and prompt them to go and upgrade. And so that's what we're going to do right now. And before I continue with this prompt, I want to explain the costs of the generated resumes, because it actually is using a lot of tokens, because it's not just about the outputted tokens that the model is producing, but it's also about all of the different tokens that it has to use to understand the job description and the questionnaire. We can see here on the back end, so far I've done 12 requests. That almost costed $1. And so we now know that like there is some type of cost that's associated with our app. It costs about, let's say, $1 for every 10 resumes that are generated. Okay, so it's a little bit less than that, but let's just assume it's $1 for every 10 resumes generated. So now we can say after the 10 resumes generated, they would have to pay so that we can break even and start profiting. And so if a user were to create 100 resumes, that will cost us $10. And so at 100 resumes, potentially we reach another usage ceiling where the user would then have to upgrade once again. And so those will be the two usage metrics that we will use for resumes and cover letters. So we'll set the first baseline at 10 and then the next one at 100. So we'll say, okay, that works perfectly. Now we want to make sure we are tracking the usage of the resumes and cover letters. For free users, they are able to generate up to 10 resumes. All right, so we just got the new update that the tracking of the resume count and the cover letter count has been updated. And so as we can see here, we're sitting at 8 resumes. And so we're gonna just push that to above 10 just to see if we get any type of message from the system that says you can't generate this resume and you have to go and upgrade. So let's just see what happens here. Okay, so now we're sitting at 10 resumes. So this last one that we do should not be allowed to go through. So let's see what happens. It gave us an error, which is good, meaning it didn't generate the resume, but the error message was incorrect. And so what we want to do is when that resume threshold is reached, the pop-up message should not be an error message. It should just be a warning message that they've reached their capacity of the free plan and that they should go and upgrade. And then that card should have a button that redirects them to our Stripe payment page. And so that's what we're trying to build out here. Now I'm not going to build out the Stripe page because I have full tutorial for you guys in the academy and on this YouTube channel that shows you guys how to implement Stripe step by step. Now that's a whole nother 35-minute video, but once you get the hang of implementing Stripe, you're going to be able to do it again and again and again. And so when that step of this process comes, you will have this entire code already built, and that is just the last layer that you want to add on top of. And another reason why I don't want to build out the Stripe for this project, not because it's going to take time, but because I don't know what your price points are going to be for this application. I'm going to give you a rough estimate at the end of this video on what I think you guys should do, but it's still your decision. At the end of the day, you can charge as much as you want or as little as you want for this application while you're profitable. I mean, maybe you even want to do it to just lose money and gain users and gain the experience, right? So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you want to potentially go about this. But another thing I think you guys should entertain is creating a free trial period. So maybe like a 7-day trial period where the user signs up, but the only way that they get access to the free features is by giving you their payment information so that after the 7 days, they're automatically charged and you've gained a subscription. In that case, I would recommend going all in on that free plan and building out that 7-day trial period. And that's also another tutorial that's a part of the Stripe tutorial, and you guys can do that all through Stripe. So those are just some things to keep in mind. But after this usage limit is reached, we can really dive into how I would think about marketing and how I would think about the overall UI before we ship it out to the public. And then we will fucking send it out and see what you guys can do with this thing. Okay, cool. So it just says it added the usage limit detection. So now if we click generate resume, we should get a pop-up notification that lets our users know that, hey, you need to go and upgrade now. And actually, now that we're thinking about this in hindsight, I would say you would have to do the free plan as the 7-day free trial as the way that you run this application, because imagine you get a video that goes ultra viral. All of a sudden you get 1,000 members onto your site, and all of a sudden they all sign up for the free plan and they all generate 10 resumes. Well, that's 1,000 people times $1 that costed you $1,000 in ChatGPT API calls just for free users. And so I wouldn't actually let the free plan generate 10 resumes because it could cost you a lot of money, but I would let them generate the 10 free resumes if you do the 7-day free trial, because then if they don't cancel, or even if they forget to cancel, you're still going to monetize off of them. All right, so it says it fixed the counter. So let's just try it one more time. Let's try and generate this resume. Hopefully it doesn't allow the user to actually fulfill the resume generation. Let's see what happens. All right, so it says it has now fixed it. Let's give it one more try here, generating a resume. And sweet. So now we got the message that says you have reached your monthly resume generation limit. Please upgrade. Now the error message itself, it doesn't look good, but it does what we need it to do, right? So the functionality is now there. We can now officially head over to the to-do list and see what we got to do next. So the job application sender is going to be through the Indeed Apply API, but there are a ton of other options. But we got the usage tracking working, right? So free plan, 10 resumes, basic plan, 100 resumes, pro plan, 250 resumes. So that's what we're going to move forward with. Now, we need to start talking about the margins and the profitability, right? So the costs that we just realized through the OpenAI backend is that for around 10 requests of a document generation, it's going to cost us about $1. And so we now know what our margins can look like. And so that initial price point doesn't even have to be that expensive. So that first price point, guys, I would actually set at like $10. So this first basic plan for 100 resumes would be $10, because if they use up all of their usage, then we break even. And then there's other ways that we can make this more profitable, right? So we can switch out the chatGPT model with DeepSeek, for example, which is much cheaper. And we just have to make sure that the prompting is set up in the same way so that, the outputs are, the same quality, if not better. And so we see that we have pretty solid margins. And so we could charge $10 a month at the minimum just to see what the market demand is looking like. And then we can also compare our price point with our competitor price points. And so that's what we're going to do here, right? So at the beginning of this video, we explained that, there's a whole bunch of different AI resume generating companies in the world, but the one that we are looking at towards our North Star is AI Apply. And so here we can see that it is doing all of the things that we would end up adding to our application. So it finds the jobs, it creates the resume, it creates the cover letter, and then it actually sends in those applications. And so we see that in the homepage, it shows the functionality. I love that. And so when we're thinking about our homepage design as well, this is something that we would definitely be interested in. And then they also have a drop down that shows the AI tools. And so this is something we can have as well, where we can also set it up where we prepare people for their interviews. We have the resume builder, we have the cover letter generator, but then we can have all of these other features down the line. And so we are at a point now where we want to just look at the pricing of this application just to see what they're letting their users do, right? So for $12 a month, they are allowing for resume, cover letter, but as you guys can see, there's no application automation. It's just doing the application kit, but it's not automatically applying. And so that might be in the yearly plan or something like that. Oh, their monthly plan's actually $30 a month. And so we are in a pretty decent spot with our margins then, because we are $19 cheaper to start. And so we can also use this in our marketing. And so when we're talking about marketing, the crazy thing about the macroeconomics of the world right now is there's a huge economy shift. And so a lot of people are losing jobs and a lot of other people are getting new positions, and using AI is the most no-brainer solution to landing your next dream job in the AI economy. And so I would use that as the main marketing tool. But on top of that, guys, I would potentially run a mini agency that specializes in landing people their dream jobs. I would run like a $1,000 offer that would get people their dream jobs, and that would be my goal. But I would use careerapply.ai to actually generate those interviews and generate those landed jobs. And what that allows us to do is use those testimonials as marketing fuel. And so we can say, hey, look, I got Jenny her dream job as a lawyer, I got Brock his dream job as a doctor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you now have a decent portfolio of people that genuinely funneled through your app and landed their dream job. And then you can start, funneling more people as users towards that end goal. And then maybe you even build a community on the side that helps people, use your application even better so that you lower your churn and stuff like that. Now, this type of application is built to churn. Like your successful customers will actually leave careerapply.ai, but the silver lining in that is they would then tell their friends that are also looking to land their dream jobs if this app worked out for them. And so in terms of the price point determination, right, we now see that we have $10 a month that we can start with, but we could go all the way up to like $100 a month at the agency level, right? So at the agency level, this person can run, let's say, apply on behalf of 5 people every month. And then from there, you can also do like some custom solutions. And so this can tie back into your marketing where you can be like, hey, you want to know a really cool business that you can start? Well, that business could be finding dream jobs for other people, and they would use Career Apply AI as the middleman to actually their own workflow. And so there's a bunch of different ways that we can generate customers for our application. And so in terms of margins and profitability, obviously you're going to lose a little bit of money from Stripe. You lose about, I think it's like 2.5% of all the revenue. And then you have your Replit costs, right, which is like $20 a month. And then you have your server costs, which could range, but let's just assume it's going to be like $20 a month. Especially if you're deploying it on Replit, there's no cost until you reach a certain threshold. So your main costs here are really just going to be your ChatGPT API or any large language model API that you're going to be using. In our case, it's around 10 resumes is around $1. And so that is like how we can start thinking about our profitability. And we now can kind of see that, hey, at $10 a month at scale, we can make this thing into a pretty profitable business. And that is our low point. So we can definitely go up from there, as well as yearly pricing, right? So $10 a month is decent, but if you get someone in for like, $10 a month for a year, you're getting $120. And now, realistically speaking, this person should be able to land a job within the first couple of months. And so now you are most likely going to just profit all of that on the back end if they upgrade it to the yearly. So that's something you also want to think about. Maybe you set the monthly at 20 so that it's incentivizing yearly purchases, because the nature of our app is built to churn. And so we might as well optimize for the yearly purchases. So that could be like 50% cheaper than the monthly. And so, yeah, in terms of Stripe setup, you guys have that entire head to toe breakdown and how that works, and even like the 7-day trial period and fun stuff like that. And then even if that tutorial is not enough for you, we have ChatGPT and all these other AI models that'll help you. And so in terms of app deployment now, let's talk about that. And then we will talk about the actual marketing discussion in terms of input goals and how it actually produce content to scale this thing properly. So first and foremost, let's talk about app deployment. So if we go back into Replit and we click the deploy button here, first of all, you can add a brand new domain. So it's not just going to be this random domain. It can actually be careerapply.ai or whatever domain that you choose. Now, the real cool thing here is this auto scale ability. So what this means is depending on how much traffic your website currently has, it'll use the amount of machines that are necessary to handle the output. And so what that does is it won't charge you money, that it won't be using these machines when the traffic is low, saving you money, and it will only spin these machines up when the demand is needed. And so you can simply just click approve and configure builds. If the app starts getting a bit laggy or slow or crashing, then you're definitely going to have to increase these limits, but that is at thousands and thousands of members, right? And so really quick, all you really have to do is make sure you have all of your secrets and all that fun stuff. And then you just literally click deploy and this thing's ready to go. Now, what you guys are going to have access to is this entire code base. And so I'm going to show you guys how that would work. So I'm going to click deploy here. In the settings of this project, I'm going to be able to make it a public project. And what that allows us to do is it allows you guys to literally just go in and copy the URL of this app and rebuild it. And so let's say you had the URL of this app. All you would do is click create app and you would just click import from GitHub, and I would give you the URL that you would paste in, and then you're good to go. So right here, GitHub repository URL. So if we head over to GitHub, we can see all of our other projects, right? So this is Social Wolf, which is my software startup, but this code base is locked since you guys, so no one can like copy it, right? But what we're gonna do is we're gonna unlock it. So what you guys have to do is literally just go into this code dropdown, copy this web URL, and then head back into Replit, paste in that web URL, and then the app is going to be ready to build, and it's going to start off where we left off. I still have to approve you guys, which is why you have to join the Academy. And the free Academy is gonna have access to a certain checkpoint in the application, whereas the paid Academy is gonna have the full stack application. And so depending on what you want, you can choose whether to join for free or join paid. The paid Academy obviously also has calls where I help you guys with your marketing and your operations and stuff like that. One last really important thing, guys, is to actually talk about GitHub and the value of it and how it can help you save your project in case you mess something up or in case the AI agent goes absolutely haywire. And so what GitHub allows you to do is create safe, saved versions of your application whenever you want. And so once you have GitHub connected to your app, all you have to tell the agent is to push the code to GitHub. Now, what this does is not only does it keep the app safe, but let's say you create a new chat in the agent. Well, that means you can't roll back to any of your previous checkpoints. As you guys can see here, we have all of these different checkpoints. And if the code at any point in our development went haywire, we could just roll back to any of these checkpoints. But over time, these agent chats get pretty long. I mean, this has been an $18 software build. And so the chat gets pretty long and the memory of the chat agent also gets diminished. And so it's really beneficial every now and then to click that new chat so you can get a new brain essentially of an AI model to build your app. And so that's why we like to save our app through GitHub, because that allows us to free up the agent while having, saved and secure code bases that we can pull from. And so here I'm going to click create repository on GitHub, and it's a public link. And so if you guys want, you can literally grab this repository and then add it to your brand new project, and it starts where we left off, like I was saying. And so that kind of concludes the Career AI build for today. It's been a 2-day build, but now you guys have the opportunity to run off with this. And my goal now is to just help you guys evolve it and generate members and generate users, generate revenue. And so I'm really excited to see who in the Academy takes this specific project to $1 million project.